Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
Dan Rubenstein, welcome back. Big Ten Preview Part 3. This is Big Ten Team Previews Part Duh. On today's episode, let me get my notepad out here.
Please.
We've got Iowa, Nebraska, USC, Michigan State, Washington, Minnesota, Wisconsin, UCLA, and Rutgers.
All kind of fascinating in their own way.
They kind of are. I was looking over this before we hit go. And yeah, each one of these teams I have what, at least for me, is a whole list of intriguing questions. So I'm excited to be back here with you. I'm excited to be back here with our wonderful Verballerhood. Hit follow, hit subscribe so that you don't miss the episodes. Verballers.com, of course, is the Patreon where you can go and further support what Dan and I do. The 5-star ratings and reviews are always appreciated to help spread the word about what we're doing here. If you are a big fan, or if you're just a college Big Ten fan, I should say, excuse me, everybody's a big fan if you're listening to this.
Yes, sir.
If you're a Big Ten fan or just a big fan of college football, go back and listen to parts 1 and 2 so that you know what's going on, at least through half of our, or a third, 2/3 of our Big Ten coverage. This is the final chapter today, Mr. Rubenstein. How goes it?
It goes really well. It's very hot here in the Midwest as we record this. And what better way to celebrate that heat, that burn, is to talk Minnesota football. Rutgers rebuilding their secondary. UCLA looking for offensive linemen. USC trying to finish some games. It all adds up, Ty. I'm very ready to talk about all of these teams, really. The Big Ten is a fascinating conference. We talked about it before, that it was a maybe surprisingly electric year for the conference last year, with adding the teams that they added and getting the emerging teams that they got. And even the teams that seemed to be down were competitive by the end of the season for the most part. There were results there to say, like, okay, this team is improving. Michigan State, whatever they are, beat Iowa. UCLA, whatever they are, beat Iowa.
Yeah, this is true.
So
very true.
Iowa ran an average offense last year, right?
Hey, why not?
There was hidden electricity to be mined in 2024, and I'm excited to see that maybe it's not all over the place this year, but of the teams you just listed, there's a lot of sparks here.
Big Ten 2025 dark energy.
Dark energy. Dark.
Yeah.
Well, welcome on back. Thank you, one and all, again, for your ongoing support. I'm excited to do this show. I'm shot out of a cannon today. I am ready for this. I am excited to close out all things Big Ten with you, Dan. We talked about the biggins on the last episode. Today is going to be more biggins, of course. This is a big conference now, 18 teams.
Yes.
But not necessarily the teams we've got in that top tier.
Right. Hey, real quick, it'd be great if you could consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out.
Where do you want to start? Who is of most interest to you on this list of teams that we got to talk about today?
Listen, I've already said their school twice. They are the team that has probably had the most recent success in this conference. I guess we're going Iowa. It's the
Iowa?
most Big Ten of these teams. I don't know. Wisconsin, perhaps. Let's go Iowa.
I love Iowa. I'm all in on Iowa this year, man. I like them more. I like them more than I expected. I said it back in part 1. The win total is 6.5. It might be my bet of the year. I'm all in.
Wow, tough schedule, right?
Yeah, and I'll talk through why, but
Yeah.
I'm they're all in the middle. Every last one of my solid verbal poker chips, which we don't have yet, maybe we can get made. Every last one of them is in the middle for Iowa this year.
Wow, can you explain why? Where are we starting?
I mean,
The great state of South Dakota?
well, we're going to get to the great state of South Dakota.
Okay.
I've been doing this thing, and this kind of like, I think my Achilles heel is just a broadcaster, a podcaster, a person in general.
Mm-hmm.
I always have this affinity to go back and talk through all the context before I get to my point.
Okay.
So forgive me, indulge me a second, but the context is important here because Iowa was a laughingstock on offense. So they brought in Tim Lester before the start of last season. I remember having Scott Docterman on with us from The Athletic to talk through what that looked like and how he thought the offense might evolve. The offense improved dramatically. It was one of the 10 worst offenses in 2023. Last season, it jumped up to like middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Which, look, middle of the pack does not constitute a great offense. Middle of the pack for Iowa, given where they've been, that was a great offense. All things considered.
Iowa improved by 1.07 points. They were the 8th most improved offense in America in terms of points per drive, especially, taking away garbage time. So, yes, from a pure efficiency standpoint, and they're not playing fast, but even still, whatever
Doesn't
that
matter.
added up to points-wise is an extra point per drive, which 10, 11, 12 drives per game adds up.
It just has to work.
That's all.
It just has to work. Now, did he build the whole plane out of Caleb Johnson and 1,500 yards from him? Absolutely. Do they have Caleb Johnson this year? He is playing in the NFL. So, yeah, a little bit of a thing that they got to work out there, but still, I think the proof of concept in year one was there for Tim Lester.
Agree.
Who I do continue to get confused with John Lester, former Boston Red Sox pitcher.
You're lefty, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, it's going to hurt to lose Caleb Johnson. I don't see how it can't, but this is still a veteran team with a lot back, which is bringing in my guy, Mark Gronowski from South Dakota State.
Yes. Quarterback.
This guy, quarterback, thank you. This guy was the best player at the FCS level. He had a 49-6 record as a starter, won back-to-back national titles with the Jackrabbits. I gave him the Cam Ward treatment, the full Cam Ward treatment, which means I went out and I watched as much tape of his as I could find out on YouTube.
And
2 hours worth. This guy is absolutely going to give teams fit.
okay.
I can't even talk.
No, I know. You're very
because I had all
excited.
that cayenne pepper this morning by accident. That's what's. My tongue is still on fire.
Yeah.
He's
I like
a
it.
really strong runner between the tackles. And I think there's going to be this constant fear with him that they're just going to run a quarterback draw, a delayed quarterback draw. I really like him. And
Okay.
he's not a jitterbug. He's not going to be out there dancing around pulling
Good
a
size.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
6'3", 220, dude's going to go out there and headhunt. He wants to
Okay.
run you over. So that's what South Dakota State did. Essentially, they played it off that to great effect. They'd snap the ball, maybe a stutter step or two. Bam, he pops it over your secondary because you're afraid of him running.
Mm-hmm.
I think this could work really well with Tim Lester's philosophy, which is trying to get some burners out wide who can get vertical. And he does want to pop you deep. Now, they didn't really have that last year.
Right.
And the guys they have this year, I think, are unproven, but I do think that they have done the necessary work to go out there and get the pieces in place that, in theory, could make that work. I almost can't wait to see the Cyhawk game because I am telling you right now, they're going to pull this on Iowa State, given Iowa State's questions in the back of their defense. And I am just waiting to see if they're able to cook the clones one time, a couple times on this exact thing that I am describing, where the threat of him running is there. Everybody's got to creep up. Before you know it, there's somebody going deep for a ball.
Okay.
So I think it works. The other thing we should mention, and maybe we should start here with Iowa, I think one of the better lines in the conference,
Sure. And
which definitely should help.
when you have one of the greatest, if not the greatest offensive line coach ever as your head coach, you assume quality development, you assume a high standard and improvement year over year.
So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's what I think Mark Gronowski brings to the equation. I watched a lot of highlights of him. What stuck out to me was the running ability and his running style. He can throw it. He's been a very good thrower, but I just think having a dual threat guy that can get those hard yards for you, those guys tend to be a problem. I'm not saying he's Tim Tebow. Let's not go there, but those type of guys who aren't afraid to run you over tend to be a real problem to stop as a defense. And I think Iowa's got that with him. So I hope it works. Defensively, it's going to be a step back. They allowed 17 points a game last year. I think I like him more up front than in the back seven, but Phil Parker knows what he's doing.
Yep.
And even if they're marginally worse here, I still think they're going to be a top 15, at worst, top 20 defense. Iowa is set up really well. I really like the pieces that they've got, and I'm real curious to see what this offense is going to look like.
Okay. I think all of that is reasonable. Mark Gronowski did play a game against a power conference team last year. They played the worst Big 12 team in Oklahoma State. He was fine. Not a huge game, and he was with FCS level talent somewhat on South Dakota State. I mean, I think South Dakota State would have won games as an FBS team last year. So I think there is high potential for improvement over where they were at quarterback last year. Obviously, Cade McNamara gets hurt, and it's, a combination. I think it was Brendan Sullivan. There was a Brendan involved in Iowa's offense.
Brendan Sullivan.
Brendan Sullivan. To me, it's just going to be a question of to whom is he throwing, right? That it's hard to convince receivers to go to Iowa, quality receivers. And I know, it offers an opportunity for transfers. What does their tight end room look like? For so many years, they were year after year after year, like Mackey quality tight ends. As bad as the offense would look, you were still dealing with Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson and Luke Lachey, like guys like that. Sam Laporta. We're always there. So what is the status of that room? Curious to see where the upside is there. And just pedal to metal aggression. That's not going to be Iowa's calling card on offense, but are they going to take opportunities? Are they going to continue to be a little bit more unpredictable? And are they going to do more than just try to service their defense, which worked for a long time and probably would still work to a certain extent, but take the shots when they're there? And you're right about the defense, and a lot of new faces there. It's a system, right? It's that aggressive zone system. So if Phil Parker can continue to teach it, and they can continue to develop and identify guys that work in that system. Yeah, there's a little bit of experience in the back end, not a ton. I think it's safety. Linebacker's the concern for me for this Iowa team, just because they're replacing so much talent, losing Jay Higgins. And again, this is a position group where they have continuously found guys to step in and succeed. I just wonder how long it's going to take when there are that many questions on both sides of the ball against this schedule.
Yeah, and look,
and I like Iowa a lot.
There are real questions about what they're going to be out wide. There's, that's going to be the open question as to whether or not they can do any of what I described. Right. My guy, though, is Sam Phillips.
Okay.
That's my pet player outside of Mark Gronowski on this Iowa squad. Sam Phillips, I think a 5'9" burner from Chattanooga, I want to say. I don't have my notes in front of me on Sam Phillips, but I liked what I saw. He had offers from some other places, some other power conference places around the country.
Legendary producer, started Sun Records, Johnny Cash, Sam Phillips, right? Same guy.
Same guy.
Continue.
Absolutely the same guy.
Yeah.
So I like what I see from Iowa. I'm fine with the defense, even though for sure there are some question marks. The sticking point is the schedule, though.
It's tough.
You're right about that. They've got 5 of the projected top 7 in the conference. Let me say this, though. I already know I'm going to catch hell for this online, so it's fine.
Okay.
It just is what it is. I'm only confident in 2 losses on this thing. Penn State and Oregon.
Okay.
Both of which are at home.
Yeah.
Both are at home. I think they can beat Iowa State. I think they can beat Indiana. I think they can beat USC. I think they can beat Nebraska. I am not saying they will beat all of those teams, okay? But I think 9-3 is like a real possibility. My bet's 8-4.
Okay.
But if we're having this conversation in December and we're talking about a 9-3 Iowa that played that style of offense, was able to use Mark Gronowski's skill set to beat teams deep. Either way, 8-4, 9-3 against this schedule is a pretty good year. A pretty good year. And you would clear that over-under of 6.5 by a game and a half.
Right.
So that's like my bet of the year. I don't have the locks down. I'll have to find the locks down. But my lock of the year in terms of win totals is Iowa over 6.5.
Yeah, it's also not terrible. Look, the teams are tricky, but they get a bye at home before Oregon. And I believe Oregon's off as well. But you want to bye at home before a big game there. Iowa for Indiana, which they get in Iowa City, that huge Indiana-Illinois game is the week before that. So that's nice for Iowa. Wisconsin, I believe, is in a crazy sandwich between Michigan and Ohio State. That game there's always going to be emotion in that game. I believe that was the nature film I did, Iowa, Wisconsin.
The Hawkeyes?
From 2010.
Yeah,
the Hawkeyes.
we did that.
Yeah, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Yeah, of course. Iowa gets SC before Oregon. before SC has Oregon, excuse me.
That's
and Iowa has Nebraska to finish out the season the week after Nebraska travels to Penn State. So Iowa most certainly is that program. If you're a little bit worn down emotionally, a little bit worn down physically, they become that much less fun to play against.
That's exactly right.
Situationally, Iowa does have good teams, but they will grind down those who have already been ground down pretty easily. So I don't hate the schedule. I don't love the schedule. I think I'm right in that like 8-ish win zone.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, so we're both going over.
We're both going over. Oh, look at this. Now, I don't love just plainly the idea of an FCS quarterback as much as you are in love with Mark Gronowski.
I love all FCS quarterbacks equally, but maybe Mark Gronowski.
Cam Ward was incredible after 2 years at Washington State, after Incarnate Word, right?
I'm always early on these guys. If Mark Gronowski can play until he's 27, he'll be great.
Yes.
How he'll do this year, I don't know.
Right.
But I feel pretty good about it. I did find the sound. I do have it at the ready if you have any locks that you'd like to trot out for the people here. Unfortunately, they updated my soundboard app and it deleted all the sounds. So I'm having to add these back on the fly, which has definitely added a degree of difficulty that I'm not used to.
By the way, easy transition here. Sounds to the next team, unless you have any other stray Iowa thoughts.
No, I'm good. I'm good on Iowa. I'm pretty pumped.
Is your Phil Snow sound back? Because Phil Snow is back.
All right. Vamp a little bit. I'm going to find it.
Okay, so obviously we're talking about Nebraska here. Longtime collaborator, right-hand man of Matt Rhule, Phil Snow, back as an associate head coach with Matt Rhule in Nebraska, which totally changes my outlook on the Huskers. No. I really like Phil Snow's defenses at Baylor. Anybody would be crazy not to have enjoyed those defenses. But Nebraska is the next move. Obviously, rivalry game against Iowa and a huge offseason of change for Nebraska, making Dana Holgerson the full-time offensive coordinator. I think it's hiring or promoting John Butler, the secondaries coach, to defensive coordinator.
Hold on, I got it.
Okay. Waco. Snow advisory?
That's the snow advisory, baby. You know it.
Phil Snow is back. He was at Temple and Baylor. I think he went with him to the Panthers. You can fact check me on that. Nebraska's fascinating, right? Nebraska's fascinating because of year 2 of Dylan Raiola, upgrades at receiver. The line should finally be pretty decent after a long stretch of the line not being pretty decent.
Yeah.
Changes in the running back room, but there's still some continuity there, of course. I think Dante Dowdell's off to Kentucky, I believe. And so the expectation after a very pickleball-y 2024 of short routes and not stretching teams downfield all that often is that Nebraska will at least be more varied. They're not going to be bombing it down the field all the time now with Dylan Raiola, but the threat should be there. It's Isaiah Hunter and Dane Key.
Yeah. Both of whom I really like.
Yeah.
I like what they did by bringing those guys in. And to the point, Dylan Raiola showed a ton of promise last season. He completed 66% of his passes. It was a 12-10 ratio, so it wasn't always the cleanest, but 112th nationally in air yards per target. Which, what does that mean? Well, it means they weren't really stretching the field a whole lot in the passing game. And I think both Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter give him more of a downfield threat. If there is one thing I'm watching, it is that basically A-dot number again, they call it, or air yards per target. I want to see if that number ticks up at all now that they've got two guys that I think are more vertical than what they had last year. This offense is going to be better. If there is more of a vertical threat, that's what they need. I think it will get better because, as you said, this could be the year where the line flips from being a weakness to more of a strength.
You'd hope.
Which would be a big deal. I think a very underrated aspect of this team could be better offensive line play. Mm-hmm. It just would make the whole thing better. So I'm excited about Nebraska as well. The other thing that I would add, and I was looking for my snow sounds, so forgive me if you already said this, but anytime you bring Matt Rhule, at least in the college ranks, anytime we've brought Matt Rhule into a new program builder type situation, we got about a 36-month germination process before we start seeing those succulent Rhule fruits start to appear.
You got to water that bamboo. You don't first see the growth, but steady day-by-day watering. You'll get there.
You will get there. So I think it's not only a matter of the offensive line getting better, but also trying to figure out what this defense is going to be now with Tony White leaving.
Yeah.
And that's really where my concern is, I think, the most with this team. I think the offense is going to improve. I do tend to hand wave some of the defensive concerns with Matt Rhule, since he usually does field a pretty good defense. It's kind of his thing.
Got Phil Snow.
Got Phil Snow.
Yeah.
I mean, John Butler, right? Like, I just think it's a little more complicated this year, since both the defensive line and the linebacker core are more of a question. And, anytime you've got a successful guy like Tony White leaving, it's unclear to me what this defense looks like under John Butler now. Like, are they going to stray from the scheme that we saw last year? If so, by how much? You might be surprised to know this about John Butler. I don't know if this is in anything that you read, but his approach actually might be a little bit more aggressive in attacking than his predecessor.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, something else to watch for. I think we see a marginal step back on defense, but probably not enough to really.
Very active in the portal. Spenders along the defensive line.
Yeah.
Okay. Tony White was not a big blitzer.
No. And I think we're going to see, again, more of that aggressive attacking mentality here.
Sure.
John Butler. There are 2 distinct seasons within Nebraska's season.
Okay.
You got the first 8 games, 5 of which look very winnable to me. 3 could be coin tosses.
Okay.
And then you've got the final 4 games, 3 of which look very losable.
Okay.
So how they do in that first 2/3 of the season is ultimately going to determine what their ceiling is with respect to the win-loss record. But I definitely think, just bigger picture, how the line holds up, and if they are able to establish more of a downfield threat, that's going to determine their ceiling as an offense.
Agree. The good news also for Nebraska. So they have the first game is at Arrowhead?
First game's Kansas City. It's a Thursday night game against Cincinnati on August the 28th. Yeah.
Right. So that's week 1. It's ahead of week 1 after, between 0 and 1. The quarterback / passing attacks faced, if what they are up front is a concern, both in terms of the pass rush and helping out the secondary, which they return a bunch in the secondary, correct?
Yeah.
It's kind of good news for Nebraska. If you're looking at quarterbacks and passing attacks faced, they're getting Michigan in the first month at home. So whatever Michigan's offense is going to be, it's not going to be that by that game. I don't believe. If it's a true freshman at quarterback, if it's, a healing Mikey Keene, whatever it is, it's Michigan State at home with a bye the week before. I don't know if we're fully there with Michigan State yet. I guess we're going to get to that soon. It is Maryland and Minnesota on the road with some combination of youth and inexperience at quarterback there, and not in Minnesota's case, bringing in a ton of recent success downfield. Yeah. UCLA, big old question mark. Northwestern, probably not going to be incredible through the air. USC is at home, but should be somewhat strong through the air. Penn State should be good through the air. And Iowa is, despite all of your love and tingliness, still a big question.
There's so many tingles.
So the reason that's interesting to me, even though I'm not as high on Nebraska as you are, is what is the number Nebraska needs to consistently score, get to say, okay, they've definitively improved under Dana Holgorsen. Like there's more of a vision, there's more of a plan, there's more comfort there. And that gives you, if you feel decently about the Nebraska defense, gives you a decent enough cushion. The number in my mind is like 27 points.
27?
Somewhere between 27 and 30 points. If Nebraska's consistently in that zone, which they very much were not last year, that's the thing. You're going to have to see that bump. You're going to have to see more explosive plays. You saw a little bit of it in the bowl game. You're going to have to see that bump from Nebraska, because fielding, and it is the Big Ten, but fielding a team week in and week out that needs to win 20-17, 17-14 just leaves you no margin for error. And there's still a lot of questions and new faces on both sides of this Nebraska team. So that's where I'd feel a lot more comfortable if after, I don't know, the Michigan game, I guess. You get 3 weeks, including a Cincinnati game on a neutral site. If by the time we get into like week 6 or 7 and like they're scoring 30 points, 33 points against decent teams, Cincinnati and Michigan, then I'm like, okay, this Nebraska team is worth all of our collective attention. But I'm not there yet.
I think all that's fair. And the only other thing that I would point out about this offense, because you mentioned Dana Holgorsen.
Yeah.
I am curious, obviously, about the line, about how they integrate maybe more of an attacking, aggressive mentality with respect to their vertical passing game. I'm curious to see what they do as a running offense as well, because we didn't see much of it until Holgorsen took the reins last season, and it was at that point we started to see a little bit more out of Emmett Johnson.
Right.
Who's going to be their starting running back this year. And so I'm just hoping that we see a little bit more of a cohesive approach on offense, that it's not all on Dylan Raiola. It's not pickleball. They're able to kind of make all of these parts work together to make the team better. They were 7-6 a year ago. The over-under this year is 7.5. That's another over-under I feel pretty good about.
Really?
The issue, though, with Nebraska this season, and I mentioned this on part 1, you could talk me as much into 10-2 as you could 6-6. I think there's a pretty wide disparity of results there. 9-3 for me.
Yeah.
For Nebraska this year.
Wow. I think I'm closer to 7-5. I think I'm right on that number. I'm not there. I need it from the offense, and I like the pop they've added at receiver. I just need to see it all come together over 4 quarters against, take your pick, Michigan, Iowa.
Yeah.
I mentioned the passing offenses on here. Could be a lot of stingy defenses on here, depending on what. I mean, obviously, we think that about Penn State, Iowa, probably Minnesota, that there's a lot of change there, probably Michigan. Like, there's a good amount. Northwestern, I think, will be okay on defense. That's the thing to me, is like, yeah, it's fine. It's a good July story, but push comes to shove, and they're losing they're winning games 10-7. You're like, ugh, I don't know, man.
Here we go again. This is the problem with me making some of these proclamations in late July, like Iowa, Nebraska. There were some other teams we talked through yesterday. I am putting my chips on a bunch of unproven units, and that's never a great idea,
Right?
Until it is. But for now, that's sort of the downside to this approach.
Also,
but I like both these teams we've talked about so far a pretty good amount.
It wasn't like a terribly long time ago that we were watching Charlie Brewer get destroyed physically because they couldn't figure out offensive line. They couldn't figure out how to be creative on offense. And they were winning despite it. I just think it's really hard to win despite your quarterback getting shelled all the time and not being able to bomb the ball down the field occasionally.
I'm with you. So you're going 7-5.
7-5. Bowl team for sure.
9-3, baby.
A 7-5 with upside, but I don't know. I've been burned before.
Why don't we keep it here with another marquee blue blood program that has a 7.5 win total?
I'm ready.
Let's talk about your USC Trojans.
Yeah.
So let me start with a positive on USC.
Okay.
The positive is that Danton Lynn is the real deal. The
We think
defensive
so.
coordinator. I think so.
Yeah.
Took over the defense last year, made the whole thing better. And I think he's going to make it better again. There was a huge effort to improve the defensive line, which I think they addressed well through the portal. And that makes me feel a lot better about USC coming into this year and their potential. They were 95th last year in yards allowed per contact, 88th in pressure rate. They got no push up front.
Right.
So they got to find a way to improve that. I think with what they did in the portal, they will find a way to do that. I like Dan Lynn. I think he will concoct a way with his attacking aggressive scheme,
Of course.
to get a little bit more of a push up front. Outside of that, though, Dan,
Mm-hmm.
I'm mixed on USC.
That's okay.
I'm really mixed here. And I am trying not to let it be or let it sound like East Coast bias.
Okay.
Why don't I hand it over to you? You're always the more balanced Southern California kid talking about all things USC.
I hope so. I don't know. USC people probably don't feel that way.
They definitely don't because you're an Oregon guy. But
yeah.
but We never review how we feel about these teams. We're always kind of coming at this cold, you and I talking it through. It works better that way.
Well, we did it a little bit on the first episode, our big picture, that it was clear that I'm higher on USC than you are this season.
But talk me through your like USC logic here.
Okay, the case for USC is not terribly complicated. The case for USC is it's Jade Mayava's first season being the guy this entire offseason. The running back room is likely worse. Transfers coming in after losing Woody Marks. I mean, he's done career-wise, and Quentin Joyner transfers to Texas Tech. They're a little bit thinner at receiver, losing the receivers that they lost, Deuce Robinson, Zachariah Branch, Kyron Hudson, but the pair of Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, I think, are quality, if not good. Sort of disappeared at times, but that's never fully on receivers, just offensive struggles, and Miller Moss having an up and down year and trying to figure out what the vision of this offense is going to be. Offensive line solidified last year, which was a nice improvement to see. I think it'll still be solid this season, even with the losses that they've suffered. Tight end is in a good place. I just think there are options for this offense. And now the people who like to criticize Lincoln Riley, usually in a fair way, will say, offense has never really been the issue with Lincoln Riley. He has solidified the defense. They bring in transfers. Once again, they're beefier up front because they were not good, I don't believe, against the run last season. The secondary has portal guys. They're healthier at linebacker. They lost key dudes on all three levels of this defense. Of course, everybody does. But I think there's enough back. I don't think Lincoln Riley has forgotten how to coach. If anything, he's forgotten how to finish. And I think going into the offseason, that's such a clear note on this team. Like, what's the plan in the fourth quarter? Whether it's being better in terms of stamina and physique, whatever. I don't think that makes sense. Better in terms of physique? We can all be better in terms of physique, Ty.
Who among us?
But in terms of stamina and plan and mental acuity at the end of games, here's the plan, here's what we're doing. And I think they will be. They weren't far off last year. But a lot of teams are not good in close games and don't get it fixed. I think USC can. I think they have smart coaches. I think they have good enough players. And I think offensively, I'm not terribly worried. I think they'll be able to run the ball fine, not maybe in an electric fashion. And then on defense, they address what they needed to address. I don't think they have star power on this defense, maybe besides for Kamari Ramsey at safety, who, by the way, Sierra Canyon graduate.
There you go.
Shout out Blazers. I just think there's enough. I think there's enough there. And when you look at a lot of this conference, there are so many questions. And USC does have, just like they kept Danton Lynn, right? There's a good amount of continuity involved that I think, like the question I have about Nebraska is, can they get to 30 points a game? I think USC can get to 30 to 34 points a game. They just need to keep the other team to 28 consistently, good or bad. And that remains a question to me. The schedule is interesting.
It's kind of ridiculous is what it is.
It's interesting. I know they have Oregon late, and they have Notre Dame and Illinois on the road. But, I'm not crazy high on Illinois. We talked about that on the previous episode. They should win their first 4 games. They should start out 4-0. They should have a decent shot against Michigan in transition because that's in LA and they have a bye the week before that. And Michigan has Wisconsin the week before that, before traveling out west. A bye before a tough road game at Nebraska when Nebraska plays the week before, albeit at home. They get Iowa at home. And Oregon's on the road, and that's a tough, 2-week stretch. UCLA's in transition. I don't even need to squint that much to say, okay, they can go 8-4, 9-3 if they're able to win a tight, low-scoring game against Iowa, which is going to be difficult.
Sure.
And beat Michigan at home or beat Illinois on the road. I don't think those are impossible things with what USC is bringing to the table.
There are only 2 teams in the schedule that I look at and I say, yeah, they're definitely worse than those teams.
Oregon and Notre Dame.
Oregon and Notre Dame, both
right.
of which are on the road. But I think games like Illinois and Nebraska are coin flips. I think games like Michigan and Iowa, both of which are at home, are definitely losable games, but maybe a little bit less of a coin flip.
Right.
Given the circumstances. So, yeah, I look at the schedule and I think I see the same things that you do. there are good teams on this. Situationally, it kind of works to their favor. But let me backtrack just a little bit for a second. And by the way, I take your point. They're going to score 30-some points a game. They're going to get 400-plus yards a game. Like that's sort of Lincoln Riley's deal.
Right.
We got to get to 35. We got to find a way to keep the other team to 28. That's been his story the entirety of his time as a head coach.
Right.
There's nothing new in that argument. But to your point about they've got to be better in close games, USC in some ways is kind of like the anti-Illinois from a year ago. If Illinois was winning all those close games, that they were 5-1 in close games and their second order win total was less than their actual win total in real life, USC was on the other end of that, right? USC second order wins was much higher because they found themselves in close games and they couldn't close. What have they actually done, though, to prove to you that they will be better?
Well, they changed their quarterback 2/3 of the way into the season.
They changed their quarterback, and I like Jedd Fisch, I do.
Yeah.
But what do you think about him as a steadying force to get past some of those issues they had last year?
Oh, he's a wild card. He will,
he's
when
a
in
total
doubt,
wild
chuck
card.
it. Yeah.
And that's my point. I think he's an exciting player. I liked him when they got him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure he's going to be like this bedrock to lean on that's suddenly going to make USC bulletproof or more bulletproof in these close games.
I am with you. It wasn't Miller Moss last year. It just wasn't. He was not the guy at the end of these games. So if you're talking about Illinois specifically, Illinois had a better quarterback and a better fourth quarter managing head coach, for sure, and coaching staff altogether. 100% true. USC went to overtime with a college football semifinalist at home in Penn State, correct?
Yes, correct.
Tyler Warren had only 508 total yards in that game against SC. They were one freak, very impressive play from Michigan away from beating Michigan at Michigan, correct?
Correct.
They were in position. They beat LSU and Texas A&M to bookend the season, correct?
Correct.
So I'm just saying they weren't outclassed last year. Even the Notre Dame game was a one-touchdown game halfway through the fourth quarter, which is a sunny way of looking at 2 pick sixes to finish things out.
I was going to say, I mean, if we want to talk about Jedd Fisch giving them this lift in the fourth quarter, they were right there with Notre Dame. He threw for 300 and some odd yards, but threw a 99-yard pick six to Christian Gray and a 100-yarder to Xavier Watts.
No, he was a great personal trainer. He got Notre Dame secondary members a ton of exercise in that game. But all said, all told, he put USC in position to win and put USC in position to lose that game. But they weren't outclassed by a team in the national championship for the majority of that game. This is me wearing, Lincoln Riley Cardinal and gold glasses right now.
Wow. Maybe you should go work for Ryan Abraham.
I should.
You're really in on USC here, aren't you?
I might get a raise. No, I'm just saying that's the case for USC. If you're going to pick a team, an emerging team candidate, one who played with the best of college football and came up just short late, is a team that hypothetically could win more 50-50 games because they were in position to win those games. Obviously, the case against USC is the reason they lost those games was happening week after week after week. It was poor preparation, poor game management. It was, Miller Moss making poor decisions, Lincoln Riley making poor decisions, not running the ball enough, giving Maryland their only, I think, Big Ten win of the season, right? The way they lost to Minnesota, the way they lost to Washington. You can go on and on. But I think the talent is there to play 4 quarters of decent football on both sides of the ball. They needed to beef up, they beefed up. They needed to add talent to the secondary. They added talent to the secondary.
They did. No, all this is true. You're not wrong. All this is true.
I would love a higher end running back. I would love a slightly less of a wild card quarterback.
You're not in on a transfer from New Mexico?
Buddy, Camp Scadaboo came in from Sac State, okay? All due respect to Sac State.
Yeah, Oregon's starting a left tackle from Nevada. Yeah. No, I get it. Listen, this is fair. This is all fair. This is all correct.
Yeah.
And I think it's an 8-4 team.
I just look at this conference, and you look up and down, not even just their schedule, but like Minnesota's starting over. Michigan State has a ton left to do. Rutgers has a ton left to do. Like, there's just so much that is just up in the air for so many of the teams in the Big Ten. And USC is just like chugging along, hoping to get like 15% better. And if USC gets 15% better this season, they're going 9-3.
Yeah, they're going 9-3. They get 15% better.
Yeah.
Listen. Everything you're saying is accurate. I am going to be a little bit more cautious on SC because
That's fine.
and I've said this a couple times now through the course of all these previews. I don't know how you fix that late game situation, where you're in close games. Some of it's luck, granted, but I don't know how you fix
not
that.
after that many times.
Not after that many times. After that many times, it becomes more of a trend, more of a feature than a bug. And so I'm going to be cautious here. I think 8-4. I could see 7-5, but I'll say 8-4 just to be a little bit more generous. And I'm excited to see Jay Malv. I like him a lot. I'm excited to see a full year with him, and now he's had a full off season to kind of be the guy. But he does have a 5-star kind of breathing down his neck.
Oh, and Hassan Longstreet? Yeah.
If it doesn't go, there will be an option later in the year again, like there was to replace Miller Moss. But I'm on 8-4.
USC is they're the reverse Jesse Pinkman. But he just can't keep getting away with it. USC can't keep not getting away with it.
I know. All right.
Yeah. That's it.
We've got 6 other teams to get through here.
Oh, please, let's go.
Let's go to Washington, Dan.
All right.
Let's talk about another former Pac-12 school. And you might be surprised to know this is another team that I am all in on. I'm all in. I think context, again, is important.
Okay.
I think it was a mass exodus last year after Kalen DeBoer bolted for Alabama. Jedd Fisch was named the coach. He cobbled it together, the best he could on short notice, but line play was a struggle bus. They only had 6 healthy scholarship offensive linemen last spring. Still, they went 6-6.
Yeah.
Lost the bowl game to Louisville. It was not a particularly explosive offense. They were really bad on third downs. They gave up a lot of sacks, maybe because of that line.
Definitely a different team with Damon Williams than Will Rogers, although he was sacked 10 times against Oregon. Yeah.
You're picking up what I'm putting down because this is all the very long way of saying that despite the fact that they went 6-6 and there were a bunch of warts that they got to deal with, none of it matters because they found Damon Williams, who I think looks like the real deal. He went off in the Sun Bowl, had 420 yards and 5 touchdowns. Smaller dude, like 5'11", 200, but elusive as hell, a good passer, has track speed. Will Rogers was the starter for most of the year, but Jedd got Damon Williams some work the full way through, I think because he knew what he had.
Yeah.
So if you look at his stat line over the course of the year, and it's not indicative, but 78% of his passes were completions, an 8-to-1 TD to interception ratio. Now a full offseason to build this thing with him as the dude. And Jedd Fisch brings in some reinforcements, right? Via the portal, via the high school ranks. I think they are set for a pretty big jump here. Jonah Coleman, who I like, is back at running back as well.
Yeah.
The wide receiver room, quietly pretty decent. Not as good as it was 2 years ago, obviously, but quietly pretty decent. The lines are restocked. They should be better. And then on top of all of that, Jedd Fisch goes out and he hires Ryan Walters to take over the defense, who was recently fired from Purdue, but before then was really good as a defensive coordinator for Illinois.
When you can get that 2024 Purdue coaching DNA on your coaching staff,
you got to take it. You got to do it. You got no choice.
How do you avoid? Yeah.
Steve Belichick was fine.
No,
He's fine. He comes from great pedigree.
Yeah.
But Ryan Walters, sorry to say, North Carolina is a clear upgrade over Steve Belichick. The interesting thing that I think Washington people should know about Ryan Walters.
You think Ryan Walters is a upgrade over Steve Belichick?
Absolutely.
You said North Carolina was an upgrade over Steve Belichick, and I was like, wow, we are going to a deep place.
I don't know what I said.
I am not intelligent enough. Yeah.
I put cayenne on the oatmeal this morning instead of cinnamon.
I love that for you.
And I'm still dealing with the after effects of this, okay?
Yep.
So forgive me if I have a slip of tongue or two.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to take a guess as to what Washington faithful should know about the Ryan Walters scheme?
Works really well against god-awful 2022 Big Ten offenses. 100% true. Yeah.
Anything else that you might be surprised to know?
I recall Illinois having an incredible corner that year who was taken in like the top 10 of the draft.
It. You know what I'm going to say?
What? Attacking aggressive mentality?
It's aggressive. It's attacking. That's what you're getting out of Ryan Walters. Something else mentioned this on a previous episode. Taylor Mays is the safeties coach, if you want to blast from the past to make us all feel a little bit older.
Seattle native.
I have got Washington as my white knuckle team of the Big Ten this year.
Okay.
They're not going to win the conference. Not going to win the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Shaking my head violently, no.
Okay.
They host Ohio State. They host Illinois. They host Oregon.
It's a good
They
home.
also
Like,
have
if you're a season ticket holder for Washington, nice
I
little
wanna be a
run.
season ticket holder. They have a game at Michigan. They might go 0-4 against those teams. They're going to make those teams work for it, dog.
Yes.
This is a team that I think is poised for a really big jump now that Jedd's had a full cycle to kind of get his guys in there. He's got his quarterback to build around. There are going to be some white knuckle situations for teams perceived as much better than Washington. Going to Seattle, obviously, as they go on the road to Michigan. I'm pretty excited about this year for the Washington Huskies.
Okay. I am. I think Jedd Fisch is a pretty good coach. I think there were definite low moments in year one, and a lot of that was roster driven and situation driven. Losing the way they did to Rutgers, losing they did to Wazoo. The way that, and look, Lincoln Riley gets all the flack out west for how he does or doesn't finish games, but there's some Peter South to Jedd Fisch, right? There is. Things aren't trending north. So I like Washington this year. I like how much deeper they appear to be.
Stop it. Hold on. I need to breathe.
You want to take a moment to digest?
Go ahead. That was
Okay.
good. Go ahead.
The offensive line should be better. They spent in the portal there. They are recruiting well there. So long term, I think the prognosis is pretty good for the offensive line, which I think may have won the Joe Moore Award when they went to the national championship game a couple years ago. It's a very good offensive line then. And I think Damon Williams is good. I think Denzel Boston is good. I think Jonah Coleman is good. I'd like to see more from this offensive line getting consistent push against the better teams on their schedule. Jonah Coleman did absolutely nothing against Oregon. The offense did absolutely nothing against Penn State. That was a 35-7 game, something like that. So what is the higher end? And that was not a Damon Williams game, I don't believe, the Penn State game, until he came in late. Is this team capable of scoring 35 points, 38 points, 33 points against some of the better defenses on this schedule? TBD. And I don't know what I'm looking at in this front seven. I don't know what I'm seeing here to make me think if I'm any of these teams on the schedule, you just let's just run it right at Washington. Like, have they improved so much up front with the losses, transfers coming in, that if you're a Washington fan, and I think Ryan Walter just has his work cut out for him, because the secondary should be in a good place. It's Takario Davis comes over from Arizona. The corners should be good. The secondary should be good. They were great against the pass last year. But why not just run straight at Washington? I'd like to know that in the first month of the season or so.
I do think they got bigger and deeper up front along the line, but now they got to figure out a way to your point, get a little bit better against the rush and do something.
They got Ohio State week 5
against quarterbacks, right? Get some pressure. I mean, the pressure rate actually wasn't horrible, but they weren't converting that into sacks last season. And so they need to find a way to do that. And look, I mean, I kind of portray some of the teams on this schedule as reasons to be interested, and I am under the assumption that they will keep these games interesting. Over the whole, though, there's a lot on this schedule that could go south. There's a lot on this schedule.
Definitely.
That could absolutely go south. Also, there are 5 conference teams coming off bye to play Washington this season.
Ooh.
So I know we like to factor that in, but we've got a situation here where they're going to be teams that are rested and ready for whatever Washington is going to throw at them. So, the line, I think,
including
is
Ohio State, by the way.
Including Ohio State, yeah. It's Ohio State, it's Maryland, it's Rutgers, it's Wisconsin, and I believe Illinois.
Okay.
Those are the 5. So those aren't, all bad teams. There's some pretty good teams on there. And I just think that you're right to be concerned about the line. We don't know how much better it's going to be. For as much as I like Damon Williams, consistency is definitely something that we have to wonder about. And, of course, the schedule gauntlet here.
Yeah.
So I'm under 7.5. For as much as I like Washington, the schedule's pretty tough. I'm going under the 7.5, but I think they're better. I do think they're going to be white knuckle moments with this team. And even though I know I talked them up in part 1 as a sleeper, I still think they're 7-5, but it's going to be a very, very interesting and entertaining 7-5 this year.
Yeah, I'm right there between 7 and 8, which is me just straddling the fence. They're 8-4 if they beat who they're supposed to beat and don't lose something stupid. Like they should beat Wazoo this year, considering what Wazoo lost. They didn't last year.
They didn't.
They should beat. Basically, if you look at this schedule, they should lose to maybe some combination Oregon, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio State, but I don't know. Illinois is at home. Oregon's at home. We'll see what Oregon looks like by then. We'll have a good sense of Illinois. The game against Michigan at Michigan will be tough. They beat Michigan last year.
They beat them. Yeah.
I think we're likely looking at an 8-4 team.
Okay.
For your consideration on any podcast player, search Solid Verbal, find us, and hit follow or subscribe. It's just that easy.
All right, Wisconsin. Give it to me. Give me the Wisconsin reality here.
Okay.
5-7 a year ago. The over-under is 5.5 again.
Right. I like so much of what Wisconsin has done to address what has been ailing them. I like how aggressive they were in the portal. I like that even if we're not crazy about Billy Edwards, he's pretty good. He's like a legit Big Ten quarterback with legit Big Ten upside. They didn't have that these past couple years. TVD and Braden Locke, whatever. So I think the receivers are okay. I think they can find answers among skill position players. I think they did enough to address what they needed up front. Very aggressive going for defensive linemen.
Really aggressive. There's something like 5 4-stars that they got in the transfer portal. So they were very aggressive. They knew that they needed to get better there, and they did.
There's experience and quality in the secondary, especially at corner. There's a lot to say that like Wisconsin's a candidate to look more organized and just of higher quality in the Big Ten. And then you look at the schedule and you're like, well, I don't know.
This might be the toughest schedule in America.
It may be because they have Alabama and Tuscaloosa early on. Yeah. And just the hits just keep on coming with the way that this schedule's laid out in the Big Ten. So
it's at Alabama. They're also at Michigan coming off a bye.
Mm-hmm.
They're home against Iowa coming off a bye. Home against Ohio State, on the road at Oregon. By the way, those 4 games are back to back to back to back.
Oh.
Then after a bye, Washington coming to town, but also off a bye. At Indiana, home against Illinois. They close out the year rivalry game against Minnesota.
Yep.
That's really tough, dude. Really tough.
I don't know what you do. Like, you're going to need to score. You might like Jeff Grimes. You might love Jeff Grimes. Grimey's got to get to 35 points a lot with this offense.
I mean,
because I think the defense will be okay, but it's not going to be where Wisconsin's defense was.
No. I mean, this is another team that's got to figure out how to get some pressure on the quarterback. They had 17 sacks all of last season, which was the fewest they've had since 1983.
Yep.
So going hard at defensive line, that was very much necessary. And I think, to your point, they did a good job there. They knew the assignment. They understood the assignment.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they at least attempted to address it. They were self-aware enough to know where they needed to fix something. But the bigger issue for me is they've had an identity crisis the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And they got to figure out a way to find themselves against what might be the toughest schedule in the country, which is not an easy task. The biggest issue I think they've had is that they tried to install the air raid or some version of it under Phil Longo, and it never clicked. And also that is kind of incompatible with what we know of Wisconsin over all these years. They've never been that kind of team.
Well, and just how they've recruited, what their reputation is in the Midwest with how they've recruited offensive linemen, tight ends. They didn't use the tight end. Yeah.
It's just not that. So the offense took a pretty big step back in year 1. It was the 99th best offense per the SP Plus last season. And now they're going in a different direction with Jeff Grimes as the offensive coordinator, which is going to be more pro style, more of the downhill running stuff that Wisconsin is known for, which I think it's very wise to shift back to this.
Yeah.
Another instance, another example of them kind of understanding where they're at, being self-aware enough to like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit and go in a different direction. So I think schematically, and I think via the portal, what Wisconsin did was very smart. I'm just not sure how it looks now because of the schedule. You know, like I like Dylan Jones, their redshirt freshman running back. I think he could do well in this scheme.
Right.
I like Billy Edwards. I like the fact that Billy Edwards is not a statue like the guys who came before him with Tanner Mordecai and TVD and Braden Locke. Like, nothing against those guys. Billy Edwards is a different kind of quarterback who I think fits better with this scheme.
Okay.
I just don't know how much better they get as a result of it, and I don't know how it looks now because the schedule is so brutal.
Right.
That's my issue here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, if they don't win that Maryland game with the Billy Edwards narrative, that's it, man. That game is in Madison.
Yes.
But that's coming off of an Alabama road trip. They get a bye before Michigan, but so does Michigan. Iowa gets a bye before Wisconsin as...
it's 4 teams off bye, I think.
Yeah.
3 teams off bye in the Big Ten.
It's a tough 1-2 for Ohio State, on the road 2 weeks, the first week being Illinois before they play against Wisconsin. It's just brutal.
We had this situation too often last year where we're looking at this team, and the quarterback thing was a mess. But we're looking at Wisconsin and we're saying they got no shot. And I think that's really what sticks in the craw if you're a Wisconsin fan, because this is, again, a proud program. They won a lot of games. They definitely benefited from being in the Big Ten West for a number of years.
Yep.
Granted. But still, we were used to seeing this team play in high leverage situations. And you're looking at the schedule all too often last year, especially down the stretch, thinking to yourself, they ain't got no shot. No shot. So hopefully they get past that. They can graduate past that because they're going to have an opportunity against a bunch of big guns this year.
And you know what? They didn't perform terribly against the best teams on their schedule last year. TVD got hurt in the Alabama game, and they still weren't going to likely keep it all that close against Bama.
No.
They were competitive. This is the big asterisk. They were competitive with Penn State for a chunk of that game.
Yes.
Right? I'd rather a team be competitive for a chunk than not be competitive for a chunk. They took Oregon to the gun at home, and they were up on USC at halftime. Again, you got to play 4 quarters of good football. I happen to believe that Luke Fickell's a really good coach. And I happen to believe really good coaches are good at diagnosing and fixing and admitting when things didn't go the way they thought they would and pivoting. And I don't know if it's going to work out for Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, but I feel pretty decently about Luke Fickell's ability to figure things out. And they're throwing money behind the roster. Hopefully that makes a difference in terms of what their final schedule looks like. But at least that's a nice starting point for Wisconsin.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. I come back to what we saw last year, and I'm just crazy curious to see if we take a step forward now, both along the defensive line and with the offense, because I'm looking at some of these losses from last season. The Alabama loss, the Penn State loss, the loss at Iowa, the loss at home to close out the season against Minnesota. Post-game win expectancy on all of those games was 0%.
Yep.
So even if there were moments where the game was close, if you run what they did through the simulator a million times, simulator ain't having it.
No.
They're saying basically Wisconsin wasn't close when all was said and done in those games. They got to improve upon that. I hope they did it this year. I'm not rooting against them. I'm going to say 6-6.
Yeah, 5-7, 6-6 is where I am. What was the name? The assistant coach who went to Notre Dame, the corners coach, Mike Mickens?
Yes.
Who found Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant?
Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant, most recently Leonard Moore. Yeah.
So could he just pass a note to Luke Fickell and just say hey,
a messenger pigeon?
Yeah, we're not taking these corners at Notre Dame, but these guys are worth it, man. I mean, corner's not the issue this year.
No, it isn't. All right, we got 4 teams left.
All right, where are we going?
We're at an hour.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's do Minnesota.
2.5 hours of Big Ten content coming your way.
Let's do Minnesota here.
All right.
You might be surprised to hear that I'm again high on Minnesota. I do it every year. I do this to myself.
It's a tough case this year. I admit it, and I think they're dependably pretty good. It's a tough case this year.
I'm doing this to myself this year. I have no one to blame but myself. Like I said in part 1, I look forward to commiserating 6 months from now after another 4 or 5 loss season for Minnesota.
Sure.
That's just the way this thing goes. But I'm saying this again because I did actually do this. I did pre-schedule the Zoom call for December. The Minnesota football support Zoom. All are welcome to join.
Okay.
Email solidverbal@gmail.com. I will set it up so you get an invite like 48 hours before it goes off. I'm 100% serious about this because this is more for me than it is for you. I'm going to need this level of support because they're going to do this to me again. I know it.
Okay.
Over under is 7.5.
You're just going to talk to people about Mo Ibrahim? What are you going to talk about on this?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about Drake Lindsey is what I'm going to do.
Okay, continue. He's 6'5".
Minnesota is the but also team of the Big Ten.
Okay.
Because the team has, to some degree, underachieved, yes. But also, the culture seems like it's really strong, and it's generally a stable program. Yeah.
Is PJ Fleck still doing the, rewards? Wasn't that a thing in the locker room? He, gives out, elite points.
Oh, yeah. I got to believe so. I mean, there's not a goofy highbrow concept that
What's today an elite day? Continue.
is above PJ Fleck.
Yeah, continue.
He's game for all of it. But good culture.
Mm-hmm.
They, I think this year figure to fly a bit under the radar, but they're also okay with being a sleeper team. I think that suits them and the culture that they've built. I think it's an offense that's going to look different, but also one that's got enough pieces back to still be pretty intriguing. And it is a team with a lot of questions, to your point, but also they've got a pretty good schedule.
That's true.
So which side of the coin are you on here? I know where I'm at. Where are you at?
I'm decently high on Minnesota overall. Like you said, they get Purdue, they get Rutgers, whatever you think of Rutgers, they get Michigan State, and they get Northwestern. It's pretty good in terms of what they can get.
Yeah.
Obviously, they get Wisconsin end of the year. We'll see where the Badgers are there. They miss Penn State and Michigan, I believe, but get Oregon, Iowa, Ohio State. It's a tough threesome.
It's tough.
It's a very difficult variable team to me. That okay, we're working in a new defensive coordinator, a new defensive line, a new quarterback. We'll see at running back. There's a lot of talent at running back. When Minnesota is working in 2 new lines and a new defensive coordinator and a new quarterback, it tells me, yes, they're a bowl team, but they're probably going to lose a game or 2 that they wouldn't ordinarily lose. So I think I'm in a 7-5 zone with Minnesota.
The offensive side of the ball is where I have the questions.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of reasons for it. The first is you lose Daniel Jackson out wide. It leaves a pretty big hole. And not an easy one that they're going to fill. Obvious question. I do like the running back room as well. Darius Taylor, he's back. However, this is a rushing attack last season, 129th in yards before contact.
Yeah. It wasn't
to the point of the line.
Good running back, not a good rushing attack. Yeah.
Not a good rushing attack. So I do think the line's going to be better, but that, they got to fix that. They got to get some push up there. And then third, maybe I should have brought this up first, is Drake Lindsey, the new quarterback. 6'5", 230. He's a big kid, redshirt freshman. The measurables, I think the arm talent are all there. The experience is definitely not. He's thrown something like 5 college passes. So it's been a minute since Minnesota had anything going explosively on the passing side of the offense. They were 133rd in the nation there last year. The hope is that he can take the torch from Max Brosmer and build upon whatever.
Can only build on it. Can't get much worse in terms of passing the ball downfield. Yeah.
Listen, Max Brosmer, to his credit, finished very strongly last season.
That's true.
So perhaps they can build on some of that momentum, and Drake Lindsey can take the baton and they can keep going forward. But again, there are real questions there. Absolutely, that's the case. I feel better about the defense. There are losses on that side of the ball as well, including Corey Heatherman, the coordinator who went down to Miami, but they're promoting from within. There's enough back from like a top 15 caliber defense. Again, I think they should be pretty good. Coy Parrish at safety is ridiculous. I like him a lot. So there's stuff here that I think you can build upon, but yet questions, but also they're the but also team. But also the 7.5 win total is something you look at given the schedule. You do mention the games at Ohio State, Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska mixed in there. Those are kind of the 4 big ones, but Michigan State could be interesting. Wisconsin for the rivalry could be interesting. Week 1 game against your Buffalo Bulls could be interesting. Who knows?
Very interesting. Yeah.
I think barring a disaster, some kind of like transcendent performance by Drake Lindsay or one of those two extremes. Yeah, it's a 7 or 8 win team.
That's where I am.
It's a 7 or 8 win team. But I like Drake Lindsay, and I'm excited to see what they can do with Darius Taylor this year because I think they need to rely a little bit more upon him until Drake Lindsay gets it figured out.
Yep. Okay, fair enough. Next.
I'll go over 8.
Over 8?
Over with 8 wins.
Oh, okay.
8-4.
I'm 7-5. Okay.
Michigan State. Give me the lowdown on Michigan State.
Got a lot of work to do. Aiden Childs at times was very fun and interesting, and at times he threw the ball to teams not wearing the same uniform that he was wearing last year.
Yeah.
I think he's intriguing. I think there is a decent amount to like about the receiver group. Running the ball was tough. The lines were tough last year. They return a bunch in the secondary. It's just one of those like prove it years from this defense specifically for me for Michigan State to feel all that good about Michigan State. I think the offense will improve. I think the identity will improve. They made hires, it seems, on offense. So it's just, I think it's, was it Brian Lindgren who came over from Michigan State to help run the offense with Jonathan Smith? I think that'll keep working nicely when they're not turning the ball over. So I'm decently high on Michigan State. I'm gonna need to see it. Like the highs were at least something, right? The highs basically are limited to that Iowa game last year. It's a talent thing right now. Like,
it is. But, they did raise the floor with transfers.
I hope.
Albeit smaller
We've
school guys.
kind of said that the last 4 years of Michigan State,
I know.
though.
Smaller school guys, but I think they can improve upon the offensive line. And I think if anybody can get the most out of these guys, it's someone like Jonathan Smith, who's been a proven program builder. That's why they hired him.
Right.
It is not a certainty that any of these guys are going to pop. So it's always a risk anytime you go in the portal. But I think he has raised the floor there. I think the defense can make things interesting. They did lose 4 of their 5 top tacklers.
Yeah.
Definitely that hurts, but the upside, I think, is there because there were injuries last season. You just got more people experience. So the depth looks better to me. I believe I saw they brought in 9 defensive line transfers. So,
but that's not
front,
great that have to do that.
No, it's not great. But up front, it's a question of can they generate a pass rush? I feel like I'm a broken record here. I'm talking about that with all these teams.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that at all last season, but they're at least trying. Again, they were self-aware enough to know where they need to improve, and we'll see if they can do it. Offensively, they'll at least be interesting, right? Like Aiden Childs, Nick Marsh. If nothing more, they've got those 2 guys. Nick
Starting
Marsh
point. Yep.
set freshman records last season for receptions and receiving yards. Aiden Childs, the best of Aiden Childs, yes, is very exciting. The worst of him was leading the Big Ten, per our friends over at PFF, with 20 turnover-worthy plays
Interceptable balls or fumble-y
yes.
moments.
Yeah. Yes. So, yes, they got to iron that out against a tough schedule, like at USC, at Nebraska, at Indiana, at Minnesota, at Iowa, excuse me. Also, Michigan and Penn State, both at home. It's a very difficult path to get to a bowl. So if they're going to do it, they got to start 3-0 against Western Michigan, against Boston College, against Youngstown. Then they got to pick up 3 along the rest of the way here. Like Maryland's probably beatable, but
UCLA at home.
UCLA, but even that one's not.
Oh, it's
obvious
not obvious. Yeah. It's a week after UCLA plays Penn State, though.
If you believe Michigan State is a bowl team, you're buying some sort of second-year boost from Jonathan Smith that maybe isn't showing up on paper right now.
I don't know how you can think anything extreme about Michigan State in any one direction when they just have added so many different players at key spots. So you really have to buy into another full season of development in Aiden Childs being a game changer, having a nice connection with the receivers, and given enough time. They have one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, but they're bringing in this dude from wherever, Montana State, and this dude from Wake Forest. It's just like, oh, I hope it all gels. I hope it all works out. It's more new again. They lose a bunch of starters who didn't contribute a ton to actual winning football. They were good players in different respects, but this was not a 9-win roster last year, and they're hoping that a lot of changes means a lot more wins.
We've got UCLA and Rutgers left. Let me give you my brief diatribe on UCLA, and then you can take it and you can tell me where I'm right and wrong.
Okay.
UCLA is my iceberg team of the Big Ten. And by that, I mean only 10% of UCLA right now is in the headlines, and that's Nico.
Right.
The other 90% no one's talking about. But getting Nico this offseason, clearly, I think an upgrade at quarterback, that's going to be the thing that everybody's talking about. And I do think he'll make them better at the quarterback position. The problem is the other 90% of what you don't get from the headlines. And from my vantage point, they're worse everywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, they're worse everywhere else. They had 35 guys leave the team from last season, though they did have some momentum at the end of last year. It's basically a new team.
Yeah.
This looks like an unproven offense to me. It looks like a rebuilding defense. We've got the pretty packaging of Nico Iamaleava, which, again, will make them better in some respects, but I'm just not digging it. Tino Sunseri coming over from Indiana, I like. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I do like some of their young talent. Javian Thomas, the running back they got from Cal, and Carson Cox, Quasi Gilmer at wide receiver. I like some of the pieces here, but I'm just not buying it. I'm not buying it. I think it's very headline worthy to get a guy like a Nico, but then if you look a little bit below the surface, it's a worse team with a brutal schedule that doesn't have the supporting cast.
It's a real tough schedule, and I think you just like to know, what are they going to do definitively well? They're going to run the ball well. Like, what is
This
Tino?
is me shrugging. This is me shrugging, Dan. I don't know.
Right.
What are they going to do well?
I don't think you can count on anything because I don't think the line play is going to be all that high on either side of the ball. They've upgraded at quarterback, but it's not like we're dealing with a situation where Tennessee fans were thrilled with year one of the Nico experience by the end of the season.
They weren't.
And so I just hope for his sake a fresh start works out, and he is, as a really interesting second act. I just don't think the talent level is there. They're not recruiting in a way that's crazy impressive. The portal hasn't been crazy impressive. And like you said, the schedule is going to be tough. I like that they were quick to make that move to Tino Sunseri after just whiffing on right time, right place with their first coordinator hire. It just was not hiring Eric Bieniemy in that moment as
Didn't
like
work.
Deshaun Foster was late to the job because of the timing of Chip Kelly leaving. It was a total rebuilding job, was not the right move. And it was quickly apparent. So
yeah,
I like
look,
that they did that quickly. It's going to take a minute.
It's going to take a minute. And by all accounts, Nico is a really good teammate. That's been written about. People have reported that out ever since he got to Tennessee. By all accounts, he's a very good teammate. Now, clearly, whatever went down at Tennessee does not reflect kindly on him or his team. But I am not buying this idea that he wanted to go somewhere else to get a better supporting cast. Right. That's kind of the rumor out there that, he wanted to go somewhere because Nico's dad went to Josh Heupel and said he needs a better supporting cast. And this is not a better supporting cast. It isn't.
No.
It's a worse team.
It was a team who would have him.
Absolutely. He's not getting paid as much, and the guys around him aren't as good.
Right.
So I am not buying this notion that he went to a better situation. It's not a better situation. He makes the situation at quarterback better. But the situation for him, if he's trying to get to the pros, if he's trying to be a better quarterback, there are a lot of warts on this team still. They're still trying to put this thing together. So not rooting against him, but that's just the reality as I see it.
Are they a bowl team?
No.
I think they can be. I think they're in that 5-7,
No.
6-6. I think we're going to have a late conversation about whether they can squeeze into something.
Squeeze into something.
Yeah.
All right. Close it out with Rutgers. Your Rutgers Scarlet Knights. You
Yeah,
love
that's true.
Rutgers this year. You're in on Rutgers.
This is a vibes thing more than anything. I don't love where they are at quarterback. I like that they're passing it a little bit more, so they're a little bit more unpredictable, but no Kyle Monangai. What did you call him?
Gila Monster?
The Gila Monster, yeah.
How dare you forget the Gila Monster?
Defense took a big old step back last year. Lost their defensive coordinator.
Rob Smith is back, though.
Rob Smith is back. Has experience in this conference. Some of it good, some of it not so good. Ton of transfers on defense. This is much more a vibe of like, this team may not be good, but I think they're good enough to get in somebody's head and win a couple games.
This team may not have a good record, but they are better than they were last year. And I think it may not show because the schedule is
Right.
brutal. I expected more from Rutgers last season. I think Rutgers expected more from Rutgers last season.
Sure.
That it seemed like it was set up for them to have a better year. But now they go into this season, the schedule's murder.
Yeah.
And still, I hope it's a situation, I suspect it's a situation where they're going to give Schiano as much time as he wants.
Sure.
Because it's going to be a slow build. This year, the steam is on offense, even after losing the Gila Monster. There's a good deal of optimism around Athene Kaliak-Manis back at quarterback. Yeah, they want to throw it a little bit more, but I think the interior of the offensive line is pretty good. I'm curious to see what happens, though, as they try to like shift the focus from a very run-heavy offense to... I'm still not all the way in on Athene Kaliak-Manis.
No, I get that.
I believe they call him the Greek Rifle. I believe that's the nickname that some have chosen for him. Not going to buy that until I see it.
No, but they were scoring points. Second half of last year, they were scoring points. They were not far off in a number of games, the UCLA game, the Nebraska game.
Yes.
Like, they were competitive.
I still think the meat of this offense is going to be on the ground.
Okay.
That's my expectation. And, yeah, I mean, a ton of transfers. Rob Smith's work is going to be cut out for him on defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the push-pull comes into play with the offense. You know, like, I think they're probably worse in defense. Not like 70th in the nation worst, but maybe average. You can say you want to air it out more because you like your quarterback and receivers. But the quarterback is definitely not the world's most efficient passer. And if you're not smart with the play calling, that's how you hang your defense out to dry. Like, it all kind of is connected here. So I like Schiano as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done a really good job here. The over-under is 5.5. I'm going under. I can maybe get to 5 or 6, but it requires an upset over a team like an Iowa, a Minnesota, a Washington. 2 of those games are away. I'll say 5-7 Rutgers.
Okay.
I'll go 5-7.
It's a look-ahead city program. They get everybody a week before
Really?
teams get others. And there is something fair or unfair about Rutgers' reputation of like, it's just Rutgers, whatever, right?
Who are they going to dump then? Which team are they going to dump?
It's a good question. Oregon gets Rutgers a week. Well, that's before Wisconsin. But other than Oregon, Rutgers gets Iowa the week before Iowa plays Indiana. Rutgers gets Minnesota the week before Minnesota plays Ohio State. Rutgers gets Washington the week before Washington goes to Michigan. Rutgers gets Illinois that's a week before a bye. Rutgers gets Maryland the week before they get Illinois on the road. Rutgers gets Ohio State the week before Ohio State plays Michigan. So there is if it's the Greek Rifle.
And Penn State the week after Penn State plays Nebraska.
Yeah, so that's an after. That's a letdown spot, but there's a lot of look-ahead potential on here. That's why I said I don't know if it was episode 1 or 2, I was like, Oregon's not losing to Rutgers. But this voice tone suggests, I don't know. That game is in New Jersey, I believe. Yeah, it is. And it's after
Okay.
the Indiana game.
You want to come in for that one? We can drive over.
No, like I told you, I was like, I could easily drive to Oregon, Iowa. 100% will not. I'm not driving, 8.5 hours round trip or whatever it takes to watch a scary game as an Oregon fan. So I'm always for traveling to New Jersey, but I don't know if I can do that. It's
all right.
sneaky. It's sneaky weird. That's all I'm going to say.
We are done with the Big Ten.
We're done with the Big Ten.
All 18 teams, go back and listen if you missed any of those previews. As always, write in, let us know what we got right, what we got wrong. We've had people chiming in left and right about all things Big 12, giving us feedback, letting us know where we're at. I think for the most part, we're pretty good. We've done okay. Colorado people always have issue with what we have to say, but that's okay. We appreciate everybody's feedback.
I'm going to be there next week.
You're going to be there?
I'm going to be in Colorado, yeah. I got a bachelor party.
I think
Colorado.
As people are listening maybe to one of these episodes, you'll probably be in Colorado since we're recording these a little bit in advance. So, yeah, awesome.
Great.
Well, have a good time.
Thank you.
Do report back on the food situation in Denver.
I always will.
Would love to hear more on that. And, Verballer Hood, weigh in. Comments, emails, solidverbal@gmail.com. All that stuff is greatly appreciated. If you are out there on Discord, we have a podcast discussion channel where people can weigh in about things they hear on the show here and argue with us if they want to.
I love that. We're very active on there now. Yeah.
We don't have too much of that going on, but we have a lot of people chiming in about things we have to say and talking amongst themselves. So if that's something you're into, that's one of the many things we offer out at verballers.com, VERBALLERS.com. The best way,
yes,
singularly, to support what Dan and I do.
I'm seeing a lot of people on this Discord who are into your Romaine joke. Your Kansas State
it went
linebacker?
over better than I expected.
So
I'm going to be honest.
If that's you, you can be amongst your people.
Come be amongst the people. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, for this big old conference, 18 teams in the Big Ten that are now officially in the books here in preview season. We will catch you all next episode. In the meantime, as always, stay solid.
Peace.